continually questioning yourself, your ideas, your values, where you come from, is actually the highest form of human thinking, is actually the most creative form of thinking. You must not be afraid of it. It is extremely powerful. In an earlier video, I talked about human stupidity, and one of the things that I talked about is the stupidest people are the ones who think they have the right answers, who are so certain that they know the truth. And that actually is a very deep form of human stupidity, because our knowledge is always limited, and those who think that they know for certain what is true are actually operating out of deep levels of fear and insecurity. And I wanted to dig a little bit deeper into this because I think there's something very interesting to explore here when it comes to general human creativity and human thinking. It's something that's been on my mind a lot lately. And so I want to go deeper into this idea. What makes us feel that we could be certain about anything? So the first element I like to go into is the human brain itself, which is something I've been researching deeply for my new book on the sublime. And the fact is, we don't really know. Our brains create a kind of illusion for us about what is real out there. They create a world of colors and objects and shapes, etc. But that's not really what is out there in the world itself. So the reality that an animal sees in the world, like your cat or your dog or any other, or a bird, whatever, is not the reality you perceive, because their brains are different. Our brains filter everything that we perceive and construct a kind of reality that we all agree that this is the way the world looks like. So if you dig deeper into that, the truth of it is, you don't really know anything objectively about the world you live in. It is an illusion created by your brain, right? The neuroscientist Dean Buonomano, very important neuroscientist, said, the brain is an illusion factory. This goes on into other deeper levels. The sense of having a self, of knowing your emotions, etc. You don't know where your emotions come from. You don't know really who you are, okay? So you are a complete mystery to yourself if you ever look at it. So spend a moment and think deeply, where do my thoughts come from? Now, I do this a lot in my meditation. And if you think about it, if you actually explore it, you don't really know where your thoughts come from, right? Suddenly, ideas pop up into your head, images, emotions, feelings. You don't control them. They just come up out of nowhere, almost as if not willed. So you don't know where your thoughts originate from. Many of your thoughts that you think are your own, that you think are original, are actually implanted through our culture, through social media, through programming and education, through your parents, etc., or through history. So many of our ideas, particularly that we have in the Western world, are embedded in us in hundreds of years of a certain philosophical bent, a certain way of looking at the world. It's not the same way of looking at the world that our ancestors had, or that people in Asia have. So a lot of it is contingent on the culture, on your education, on your background. So if you add this all up, and I could go deeper and deeper and deeper into it, you don't know what the world looks like. You don't know, what is actually out there, because the brain is constructing it for it. You don't really know who you are, because the self and the ego is another construction that the brain goes through. You are actually a chaos of impulses. You have many moods. In the course of a day, your ideas and your moods are in continual flux. But you're given the illusion that it's actually kind of consistent. So you don't know who you are, you don't know what the world looks like, you don't know where your thoughts come from, you don't know where your emotions come from. You are a complete mystery to yourself. And you have to let this sink in for a moment and give yourself a sense of humility. You don't really know the ideas that you think that you're so certain of. Maybe you need to question them. Maybe the flip side of human stupidity, of being so certain, is to actually continually question yourself as a form of wisdom. That's what Socrates expressed as the ultimate of wisdom, was the fact that the only wisdom is that you don't know anything, essentially. Okay? Now, this doesn't mean that you don't have convictions, that the world is you can't understand anything about the world. So for instance, I might have a conviction that's very strong personally, and it could be something different for you in the realm of certainty here. So I feel very strongly about the environment and about animal rights, etc. Another issue extremely dear to me, very emotional to me. Does that mean I have to question my own deepest held values? Well, yes, on some level you do. You need to question even those. It doesn't mean that you then reverse them. So I earnestly believe that climate, the warming of the planet, is an existential threat to our survival, right? But I still have to wonder sometimes why I get so emotional about it. I do still have to question myself. And when I go through that process, I then realize that, yes, you're right in feeling that. It's okay. It's okay to question it because it actually strengthens my own convictions. When I'm writing a book, part of the reason why it takes me so long, people often complain, Robert, why does it take you so long to write a book? Is I write something down, like in human nature, I write something about irrationality or the dark side, and I look at it and I go, actually, I don't think that's true. What you just wrote isn't true. You need to think about it more deeply. It's a partial truth, right? So I question my own ideas, I question my own writing, not once, but twice, but 3 times, but 4 times. And then maybe by the 5th time, I feel like I'm getting a little bit closer to the reality because I'm always feeling like I'm never quite there. And early on in my books, like the 48 Laws of Power, I didn't like the feeling like I'm giving you a law that's so certain, like never outshine the master, like I know everything. So what I did was every law has a reversal. And that reversal is completely ignore this law. It may be totally wrong. In fact, maybe just do the opposite, right? And I'll conclude by talking about what makes this so creative. The great poet John Keats, from the 19th century English poet, called this negative capability. He was analyzing what makes a poet like Shakespeare so amazing. His idea was that somebody of a higher intelligence like that is able to have 2 contradictory ideas in their head at the same time and not be upset about it, not try and exclude one side and go to the other side because they feel fear and insecurity. Because behind every one of your certain ideas, your convictions, is a great deal of fear that you actually don't really know the truth, and that's why you double down on them. But the ability to hold 2 ideas that contradict each other in your mind at the same time shows incredible strength, shows great intellectual strength, right? So for instance, we all know that people who often appear to be really good and really saintly and really virtuous are often hiding a dark side, are often the opposite in some ways, right? And I write about that all the time. There's a contradiction there. How can somebody seem so virtuous and at the same time have this dark side that is so clear at certain points? Well, they can be both. Things don't have to be black and white in this world. It could be that this person does have a virtuous side, but they're also harboring a very dark side as well. So there can be things that contradict each other in life. There can be things that aren't black and white, that are in the gray area. And when you are truly creative in your process, whether you're writing a book, whether you're creating a movie, whether you're creating a business, the ability to say, I'm not exactly sure what the answer is. Maybe I need to consider more possibilities. And when you widen your mind and you consider more possibilities, all of a sudden ideas will come to you. Connections between A, B, C, D, and E that you had never thought of before. So the opposite of human stupidity is a sense of questioning and opening your mind as wide as possible and questioning every one of your ideas and your values, however far you can take it. So I just wanted to explain that to go further on what I had said before about human stupidity.